Uh, Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar organized by Internal Audit Standards Board. Today we are having a very wonderful topic, leveraging data analytics in process risk internal audits. So today, first of all, I would like to welcome our CCM Dynamic Chair Central Council member C.H. Chandrasekhar Chatraji, and I request you to please enlighten us and give us a welcome address.
Thank you. I think the topic you have talked of is data analytics and internal audit and risk. The enlightenment will come from the speaker, Sumit Saraf, who is expert in the field. Uh, Friends, at Internal Audit Standards Board, now we are rewriting all the internal audit standards. Broadly, we are bifurcating them into two segments. One is the quality-related standards, which an organization should possess those qualities. And secondly, the operating standards. So soon, maybe in the month of September, we will conclude them. Of course, these standards should also be released for the purpose of public exposure. And we would certainly expect feedback from the stakeholders as to what improvements are required in those standards. Secondly, on these standards, we are also running courses. So the members are also requested to join those courses and appraise themselves about the nuances of internal audit. Banks are liberally consuming services in internal audit arena. It is not only voluntary, but also RBI also stipulates the requirement of bank audit, maybe internal audit, maybe concurrent audit. So both types of audits are stipulated by the Reserve Bank of India. And the IASB is running course on this concurrent audit in banks. The study material is under updation and it will be concluded by this month end. A team of about 25 plus members have associated themselves in updating the concurrent audit material. Soon the board will consider it and this new material would be available. And the concurrent audit course as it is, which is going on, will thereafter be taking into account this newly revised material. And thereafter, friends, in the month of Jan or Feb, Reserve Bank of India comes out with annual circulars for banks to follow them. Auditors have to look at the compliance. So once this particular exercise is made now of updating the concurrent audit background material for course, maybe we also stipulate a condition that annually it should be revised because like income tax law, annually the Finance Act makes changes in it. So in case of bank audits also, annually the Reserve Bank of India circulars make amendments to the provisions which are already invoked. So when we are conducting this concurrent audit, we should be aware of what are the courses, what are the provisions which are applicable to the banks and whether they have been observed or not. Because on that depends the value addition by the internal auditor, by the concurrent auditor. And the more value addition we make, the more chartered accountants would be engaged in the phenomenon of internal audit. Friends, we are also planning national seminars at each region on internal audit. So that also from whatever region you are, you will be communicated separately by the region that, okay, this is the internal audit conference that we are going to do. Now, as far as this artificial intelligence is concerned, which is vogue in every walk of life, profession, and really the artificial intelligence works on setting up of patterns. And now the AI has also, tools have become very intelligent and they could not only recognize the patterns, but also they develop the advisory on the basis of those patterns. In case of internal audit, what we call data analytics. So from analysis of data, certain inferences can be drawn. So yes, when you analyze the data, maybe with human mind, which knows no limits. You can draw certain inferences. And also, when you subject them to machine intervention, machine is also equipped to give you those trends and maybe certain advisory. As far as human mind is concerned, human work is concerned, you can do it. But when you can use machine and these analytical techniques, maybe the work which you would otherwise do in 10 days, maybe you will be able to accomplish in 1 day. And today, our race is against the time, against the risk, and reporting. So, these techniques of data analytics would certainly enable you to run that race with full vigor. And therefore, we thought it appropriate that maybe it's better to have a session on this particular topic. And Samit is really expert in this particular field. So, whatever by reading 5-10 books you would understand in maybe a couple of weeks, maybe these 2 hours, if you sincerely devote, you would save your weeks. Of course, when he delivers a lecture, if you have come across any issue, any ask question you want to ask, you can put them in chat box so that maybe at the end we have requested to reserve some 10-15 minutes. Rushikesh can ask those issues to the faculty and the faculty will address your issues so that your quest will be satisfied. I thank Samit for sparing his time and
Thank you,
agreeing
sir.
to share his reservoir of knowledge and experience and expertise with the members, and also Rushikesh for agreeing to coordinate this particular session. Thank you.
Thank you, Chitra sir, for addressing and enlightening all the audience, and especially sharing the insights about internal audit standard boards and sharing the timeline regarding revision of standards. Thank you very much, Chitra sir. Now, I would love to introduce our today's speaker, C.S. Samit Saraf sir. He is fellow member of ICI and holder of Advanced Diploma in Management Accounting from SEMA, London. 13 years of post-qualification experience in the fields of internal audits, risk advisory, statutory audits, and tax audits. He is partner at Kirtan and Pandit LLP, based out of Mumbai office, leading the practice of internal audits and risk advisory for mid-size and large and listed corporations. He is also managing committee member of the prestigious Bombay Chartered Accountant Society for 22-23, 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26. He is co-chairman of Accounting and Auditing Committee of the BCAS for the year 25-26. He was also convener of the Internal Audit Committee of the BCAS for 23, 24, and 25. He is he was member of IA Committee of WRC of ICI for 22-23, core group member of the BCS since past 11 years. He is the contributor to the illustrious BCAS Referencer annual publication on the subject of auditing for the past 6 years. He is speaker and faculty at prestigious forums such as ICI, BCAS, WRC, NIRC, SIRC, etc. on the core subject of internal audit and technical contributor to the ICI's publications. He is also trainer faculty for the ICI certificate course on internal audit for the past 3 years. He is board member at Global Chamber of Saraswat Entrepreneurs, popularly known as Saraswat Chamber of Commerce. So, with such distinguished qualifications and experience, we are privileged and honored to have such a wonderful speaker in the form of CS Samit Saraf sir. I request Samit sir to now take charge and enlighten our audience. Over to you.
Thank you, Rishikesh. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just 1 minute. Yeah. A very good evening, all participants. A big thank you to Chitra sir, the leadership, and the core team at the Internal Audit Standards Board of the ICAI for giving me this opportunity today. It is always a pleasure to be here, and today, so the same. So, thank you for inviting me. Today, we'll be discussing a topic that is rapidly transforming the landscape of what we call internal audit and risk advisory. The topic for today is leveraging data analytics in process based internal audits. So it's a very new age topic, so to say, and it will show us a glimpse of what lies ahead and where the world is already moving. A quote by Steve Jobs of Apple comes to my mind when I think of integrating data analytics with internal audit. He had said it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. So, as internal auditors, although we have specific skill sets, we may or may not have the added skill sets or the advanced technical skill sets or what is required for data analytics. At that point in time, it's very important to identify the right people on the team and to make it a data savvy, data analytics savvy internal audit team, which will have those experts as well. During my presentation today, we'll be exploring how integrating data analytics into our today's audit methodologies can enhance efficiency, improve the risk coverage and the scope that we cover, ultimately delivering the greater value to all client organizations. We will also look at certain practical applications under the audit tools and what outliers can be used. We will discuss the benefits of integrating data analytics and also certain challenges we need to appraise ourselves of. And also, we'll be touching upon the considerations for successful implementation of data analytics as part of internal audit. My aim today is to also provide you with a clear understanding of how data analytics can empower us as internal auditors and risk advisors, how we can navigate the complexities of today's dynamic business environment more effectively from our point of view, and to contribute strategically to organizational success, which will become a win-win for all sides. So with this, we'll jump into the presentation. I've broken it into two parts. One is to set context of what is internal audit, what, why, how of data analytics. When it comes to expectations from us internal auditors, how is the expectation pre-analytics and post the advent of data analytics. Then we'll be moving to what the internal audit process flow looks like. We'll see the four pillars of the internal audit process flow. Then moving into the actual topic of the day, which is the usage of data analytics. Today we've taken an example of procure to pay. So we'll be looking at certain analytical outliers that can be applied. We'll be looking at certain use cases of Idea Caseware, Python, and Power BI. So the idea from my side will be to just give you a glimpse of what is possible and what can be done. And towards the end, we'll be looking at certain challenges in this particular process, which we should know and how we can overcome those. So to start with, what is internal audit? The definition of the Institute of Internal Auditors says, internal audit is an independent, objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. So I have marked independent, objective, and add value in bold specifically because this expectation will never change. This expectation from internal audit has been there, will be there as we go ahead, since we are to look at this from an unbiased view. Internal audit helps organizations accomplish their objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control, and governance process. So GRC is covered here. So what this basically means in layman terms is internal audit serves as a vital function within any organization, operating independently to provide unbiased assessments, like I mentioned. The core purpose of internal audit is to enhance the organization or the client entity's value and efficiency from an operational point of view. If we deploy a structured and a methodological approach, internal audit will systematically evaluate and strengthen the effectiveness of risk management, the internal controls framework, and governance frameworks. There is a rigorous process that entails, but ultimately it will assist the organization in achieving its strategic goals and objectives. So, with the definition out of the way, we will now look at the what, the why, and the how of data analytics. There is a quote by Peter Sondergaard of Gartner, which said, "Information is the oil of the 21st century, and analytics is the combustion engine." This line itself says a lot. Uh, we all have heard, that data is the new oil. What again this means to say, and I have my 2 cents on it. For years, internal audit has been a cornerstone of good governance. We provide assurance and insights to the operational aspects of a company. Traditionally, this has involved sampling transactions, we review documents, we conduct walkthroughs or interviews, as the word may be. While this is effective to a great degree, these methods have proved to be limiting to a great extent as well, especially after the advent of how data analytics works and with a dynamic environment. Also, with the traditional approach, it can be time consuming, there can be human errors, clerical errors, and always we may not capture the whole picture. Since we take up samples, it may not capture the whole picture of the risks and the inefficiencies within these complex processes, be it core process or support process. And that is actually where data analytics comes into the picture. Imagine, as internal auditors, we are looking beyond a small sample of transactions to now analyzing 100% of the population by using these tools. Imagine identifying patterns, trends, and potential risks that otherwise may have gone unnoticed because we are not looking at the entire population or the entirety of the process. That is the actual power of data analytics, which brings to the process-based internal audits that we do as internal auditors. It is allowing us to shift from a reactive approach to a proactive approach, and we'll speak of that as we proceed as well. Identifying issues before they escalate into something larger and providing meaningful insights to the management. It is not just that we have to bring audit observations, we also need to recommend the best practices, we also need to advise as to what the actual process should be compared to the as is at this point in time. Moving on to the why of data analytics. One may ask as to why we require data analytics when we are doing a comprehensive internal audit. The client is happy. There have been no red flags per se beyond the coverage. But we need to look at it from these 6 pillars. Enhanced coverage. When we say enhanced coverage, it simply means instead of sampling a small percentage of the data population with the data analytical tools, today we can cover much more and even 100% of data populations in maximum cases. Next is early detection. So early detection speaks of proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. By using these tools from a continuous monitoring point of view, issues where found can be nipped in the bud in a nascent and an early stage itself. Third, as to why we need it is from an improvement of efficiency point of view. Using these data analytical tools will add to improvement of the process efficiency, be it P2P, be it O2C, be it inventory management, finance, HR. There are many areas that we cover as part of internal audit. And with tools, there is going to be added accuracy, there is going to be improved efficiency because the coverage is such. The fourth area is improved risk management. So from this point of view, when you use the CATs, the computer aided audit tools or data analytical tools, it helps us improve the risk assessment from a controls perspective, from an ICFR perspective as well, mainly making them more accurate and comprehensive. The fifth area is deeper insights. So as internal auditors, we have been giving our internal audit insights as part of our report and executive summaries to the managements and the boards. But using such data analytical tools also help offer strategic insights, which will provide the value addition to the business teams and the operational teams. For example, identifying certain trends, identifying certain patterns, which may help them take those business decisions. And the last part, that's the sixth area, is increased value. Whatever we do as internal auditors or risk advisors, perception is the key. It is what you present in the audit committee or what report you table that speaks bounds of what you have done as part of your internal audit assignment. So perception is always key. Having cost control measures or revenue leakage identified, in most cases by using data analytics, will outweigh the cost of actually implementing this data analytical tool. So, conveying that is also absolutely important. And using these data analytical tools gives us that opportunity to show the perception, to add to the perception of how internal audit can go beyond just checking transactions or checking processes. Now we look at the how of data analytics. How can data analytics be implemented in our regular internal audits today? A is to identify the opportunities. So when we say that, it's basically identifying the areas within your current internal audit scope, the internal audit annual plan, the internal audit annual universe, or the 3-year universe, wherever data is available in any of these processes, and how analysis can provide the significant value. The example I've taken is P2P, which we'll look at in much more depth when we look at the outliers and what is possible at a later stage during today's presentation. Access and prepare data. So internal audit team cannot work in a silo, cannot work by itself. There has to be that collaboration, and we need to work closely with the IT teams, which enable the ERP and certain softwares that are used. Also, we need to liaise with the respective process owners. So when we deal with the P2P audit, we'll be dealing with process owners in that division, and so the case to access the relevant data. So when we say relevant data, maximum data in today's environment will be in ERPs. Now ERPs are of many kind. So this is available in the soft form. If the data is available in soft form, there are data tools that are available which integrate directly with the ERP, or you need to extract the dump in a CSV or an Excel format and then run it through the tool. But we'll have to work with these functional teams to access the right data, to ensure that the data is clean, the data sanctity is there, and the data has been correctly extracted without any cleaning issues. We also need to ensure as internal auditors that the quality, completeness, and consistency throughout the data that we will be running through data analytics is maintained during the audit assignment. Then we come to how to choose the right data tools. Now I've tried to give 3-4 examples. Most of us have been using spreadsheets, and which is Microsoft Excel, but this is good for your smaller data sets and basic analysis, be it conditional formatting, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUPs, etc. There are softwares available in the market widely. A couple of examples are ACL or Idea Caseware. These are good for your data audit data analysis. So here you can integrate with the ERP, you can extract data from the ERP and run the data for exception reporting by using certain hypotheses or outliers. Then we come to the business intelligence tools, which popularly are called BI tools. Tableau, Power BI are great examples. These are mainly used for data visualization and presenting the audit findings to make it more graphical, more pictorial, so that you can explain it in a much better way. And the fourth one is scripting languages. So a great example here is Python. There can be the R option also, but Python is more popular. This will be used from a more complex analysis and automation point of view. There may be a requirement to write scripts to have the data. So in today's presentation, I've also tried to give a couple of examples of usage of Python as part of internal audit as well. Next is to apply analytical techniques. So just 4 examples here that I've tried to give. Having duplicate checks for vendor master data. So having duplicate line items, duplicate vendor codes, duplicate GST numbers, duplicate PAN numbers, duplicate vendor names as well. Many times what will happen is ABC Private Limited or ABC PVT Ltd. They can be duplicates which go unidentified if you were to look at it from a traditional point of view. But with data analytical capabilities, we can easily fish them out. Date sequence analysis for purchase indents and quotations. It is how the date is being sequenced as part. So this also example we've tried to give in today's presentation later on. Stock aging analysis for inventory management is an example, and aging of open POs for monitoring the outstanding POs. So various analytical techniques can be used, and today's data analytical tools have the offerings that can cover these outliers quite easily. Data analytics can be used to interpret the results and to report the findings. It's very important for us as auditors to first interpret what the output is from these data analytical tools, and then you translate it into clear, actionable audit findings and recommendations by the help of which you can prepare the audit reports. Here we can use the BI tools, the data visualization tools, that is, for effective presentation, so that the message can be conveyed in a much more lucid manner. Most importantly, while bringing data analytics as part of internal audit, is to develop the skill sets. Now, one is you can invest in training of your existing teams, develop the data literacy, analytical skills, take webinars, take courses that are dedicated to data analytics for your team members at this point. Or you can hire the right skill set team members to make this a more comprehensive, data analytical savvy sort of internal audit team. It's also important to understand the capabilities of different tools that are available, and you apply accordingly. One size will not fit all. So that understanding of what the current environment of the client's organization can take depends on what tool you will want to select. So that is my point there. Moving on, we now look at the expectation from internal auditors post the advent of data analytics. First, we'll cover quickly the pre-data analytics era. Expectations from audit committee has always been for crisp reporting and assurance on the effectiveness of the internal controls. Also, the time that is given for presentations many a times requires us to be crisp and brief. So an executive summary is typically presented, which has the high risk and the critical risk issues that are presented as part of the ES. 100% compliance of statutory compliances area, be it finance acts, be it labor laws, be it the core business acts that apply to the organization. Compliance on that front also is sought. Moving to the senior management or C-suite level, value addition is a very critical area as an expectation. New findings with every audit, why are repeat observations coming again? So those aspects are typically checked. And emphasis on cost control or revenue leakages is quite a lot. Dealing with process owners, which are members in respective divisions like P2P or O2C procurement or sales, it is to understand the working constraints on ground level, why there are issues in providing data. So those ground level issues many a times are conveyed there. There can be a request to avoid reporting certain issues which have been closed during the fieldwork stage itself, but that's again a judgment that the internal auditor needs to take. Provision of data, how accurate? So there are two ways to do this. One is where the SPOC or the process owner downloads the data and sends it to the audit team. Or option two is where the audit team accesses the ERP, extracts the data necessary for analytics, and then moves on. When we move to the post data analytics era, the expectations of the previous slide will remain the same, but there are some things that will now further add as an expectation from these various persons. There is an expectation to move beyond the traditional sampling to full population testing. 100% coverage is definitely possible with data tools in today's scenario, which again offers us a more comprehensive coverage of each process that undergoes the analytical audit. There is an opportunity to provide the deeper insights and to identify the patterns, which we've already spoken of on the previous slides. This will lead to impactful recommendations, which are of much more value add to the business teams or the operational set of persons whom we are reporting to. Proactively detecting the issues, again, proactive always compared to reactive as an approach in today's scenario. This is an opportunity and again, an expectation as well for us to automate the routine tasks. So one of the examples I had seen in one of the audits in the previous year is the routine tasks that the our internal audit team was covering. There was a request from the senior management in the board that is there a way that we can automate these routine tasks or recurring tasks that your team is undergoing, be it a transaction audit, be it certain checks that we have on the ERP. So there was deliberation on that same. We built a bot with the help of certain tech partner, and that was used to automate these recurring tasks as part of internal audit. What the expectation was, and which will happen in many cases going forward as well, is auditors should be spending more time on strategic aspects and the complex analysis, which is where the cream actually lies and where the value addition actually lies. Today's scenario offers us a great opportunity to remove the mundane tasks or the ordinary tasks and automate that with the help of a bot. Knowing the right partners, having the right functional knowledge can easily make this possible, and that is how the client perception about internal audit will gradually change. It's important for the team to have the data literacy and the analytical skills. So the investment on training is absolutely prima facie here. Moving ahead, The expectation from various levels is also for us as internal auditors to collaborate with various functional teams, mainly to ensure the correct data availability and to be able to access such data on time during audit, and firstly from its accuracy point of view. Everything else follows. Data analytics will follow once the source of data is correct at all times. Developing an auditor's mindset while having a focus on problem solving, it's very important for us as auditors to have the understanding of the business processes and our ability to interpret data in whatever form that it comes out from the ERPs. So auditors understanding anyway as part of internal audit in traditional mode, we were doing as part of walkthroughs, our background research, reading the annual reports, etc. Here we get the understanding of the process. But now the ability of being able to access the ERP data by using these tools is something that is an expectation as well. Provide continuous monitoring, advice. So real-time monitoring of transactions and controls rather than having a periodic internal audit, say by end of a month or having the audit end of a quarter. In today's scenario with data analytical tools, there is an expectation to have certain areas covered under continuous monitoring. So accordingly, the tool should be suggested and built. Next is addressing data quality challenges. So here, as internal auditors, the expectation from the other side would be to navigate these challenges related to availability of data, completeness of data, and consistency across various softwares and systems that are being used. So that is where our inputs are highly valued. And lastly, delivering the increased value and the cost savings as part of this endeavor. So we can definitely, with the advent of data analytics, provide recommendations for improvement of efficiency, process efficiency, that is, reducing attrition, because now what will happen is the usage of tools will make the work more accurate. Also, to a great extent, reduce the added man hours that are spent on recurring or routine activities. This again can be a positive, and for internal auditors to provide the actionable insights. Next, we'll be looking on the next few slides on what the internal audit process is, since today's topic primarily being on data analytics, but how we can use it as part of process-based internal audits. I just quickly want to run you through the 4 pillars of the internal audit that we do: planning, fieldwork, reporting, and follow-up. Although this is a pictorial depiction, I have some slides which will speak on much more detail on each of these pillars. So first, we'll be looking at the planning stage. With regard to planning, it's very important to define the audit objectives. We've had a acronym of SMART. So objectives should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. It's important to understand the organization. So imagine that this is year one, and for us, it's a new client. So knowing or accessing the business information, having the updates of that particular business sector, from within the company's domain or from data that is available on public domain. Background research from the internal audit team. So basically, this is know your client. You should have the information that you're necessarily supposed to have while you plan for the internal audit for the year. Any material impact that is there due to external factors. Great example is COVID. If you take an example of a tourism industry, it was adversely impacted for that point in time. So at that stage, that material impact, whether was taken care, how as internal auditors we can advise and take care of it. So this comes under the understanding of the organization point of view. Identification of the audit scope and the universe. Now this again covers your core and support functions. In a manufacturing entity, core would be your procurement, your sales, production, inventory, logistics. Support may be finance, HR, IT, or any other allied functions. So this will comprise of the universe. It can be far more areas, but these are broadly the primary areas that can be covered. Risk assessment, timely identification of risks applicable to the business. So a review of the IFC matrices or the ICFR matrices, as the case may be, and also the RCMs. So identification and annual testing will help us get that understanding. But having access at a planning stage will give us an idea as to more about the environment. of the organization. An engagement letter charts out basically the purpose of the audit, the scope of the audit, responsibilities, what accesses we'll have, and broadly that. Um, Engagement letter typically will prevail in a co-sourced environment where there is an internal audit firm that is asked to conduct internal audits by the organization. In case it's an in-house function, it is typically the audit charter. While planning the audit, there should be time spent on proper allocation of resources within the team. What skill sets are required? So, while we are on this point, if it is an HR audit which covers labor laws, for example, someone who understands the coverage of labor laws has already worked on these aspects and knows the pitfalls and where industry benchmarks are, along with the amendments, will be very important to be drafted on the team. So judging that skill set is absolutely important at this stage. The time frame is basically the timelines of the entire audit: planning, fieldwork, reporting, and follow up. And again, this will help formulate the internal audit plan. The said plan is then discussed with the management. The feedback is sought. If there are any suggestions with regard to areas being switched or changed or added or deleted, the amendment may take place at this stage. Further, the board and the audit committee approval is taken for the plan for the year, and it is tabled and ratified at that stage. The same is implemented across the months or the quarters as the case may be, and the progress is mapped as we proceed for every end of the quarter board meeting. If there is a need to amend the audit plan during the year for any external or internal purposes, due approvals again from the board or audit committee are absolutely necessary. Moving to the fieldwork stage, this starts with our field visits and data collection, which will have your walkthroughs, interviews, and data collation. Most critical stage is this one, where accessing the data on time is typically a challenge, and that is one we should be wary of, so that we can overcome it in time and bring our audit time that is spent on these aspects to a lower extent. Testing and examination, performing analytical procedures, validating internal controls, sampling, and benchmarking. This particular part is where data analytics will be core as an input. So here, your analytical procedures, the sampling, everything can run through the data analytical tools easily, rather than using mere Excel or other modes. Documentation and evidence, the adequacy, the observation tracker, which is basically tracking the observation right to the stage of whether it is reportable or non-reportable, and the responses that we receive from management and evidencing. The control evidence, like I mentioned, will form the basis of the draft audit report. Moving ahead, communication and preliminary reporting. So at the end or towards the end of the fieldwork stage, an exit meeting will be called where draft observations are discussed openly with the HOD and the process owners of those particular division. We also will seek the management comments and target dates at this stage. If we were to stumble upon any critical observation which cannot wait until the end of the sign off of the final report, a flash reporting mode may be used where the said critical point may be addressed to the senior management member for immediate action. Wrap up and exit meeting is the closure meeting, as I mentioned. Here we record the comments and TD. Moving to the third stage, which is reporting. Basis the exit meeting and the draft report, draft observations that were discussed, the audit report preparation begins. Compiling information begins. The annexures, the exhibits, the implications of risk, the recommendations that we have is all started to populate here as part of the predefined format or the template of a report. Our report as internal auditors should be objective, unbiased, and fact-based. Every line that we mention in the report needs to have a backing or supporting that can easily be exhibited as part of an annexure or an exhibit. Important to highlight the findings, the deficiencies that we have seen, the control weaknesses that need improvement, any non-compliances, say from a statutory or regulatory point of view. These are the opportunities for improvement. So, like many a times we come across the line, are we fault finders or are we enablers of process improvement? So we are the latter. We should always work towards process improvement, and from a root cause perspective, try to address every issue that we see. Usage of clear, concise language to avoid any technical jargons or terms as part of the internal audit report. It's best to keep it simple. so that the message is conveyed much better. Executive summary is a subset of the main audit report, which will have the high risk observations only for crisp reporting at the board level or the audit committee level. Findings and recommendations, basically detailed description of each of the findings that make their way to the report, along with the evidencing, is absolutely essential. While drafting recommendations for the remediation process, it's important to tailor make or customize this particular solution and not make it more theoretic, so that this can be taken care of and closed as intended by the management. While we speak of closure, you know, the closure can happen only if the root cause analysis is done properly. So root cause broadly can be people specific issues, your business process deficiencies or IT deficiencies. Every observation ideally should be classified in either or these root cause silos. Risk assessment and impact analysis, once the ICFR testing is done, gives us a greater insight into adequacy of controls, and if certain aspects are partially effective, what actions need to be taken for it to be fully remediated. The distribution and review, basically the report and the executive summary, there's already the distribution chart that is agreed upon. So whether it needs to go to the executive management, the board members, audit committee, again, as per the plan, the same needs to be distributed and reviewed. Continuous improvement, again, is a very key aspect. Feedback from stakeholders across the organization, right from top to bottom, on the impact of internal audit, the usefulness and the effectiveness of the internal audit report. The feedback is absolutely necessary because it will help us refine the future way of how we look at approaching this particular audit and how we currently and report the observations. The fourth and the last stage is about the follow-up. So this is the stage where the corrective actions are typically monitored from the past audits. The evidence is absolutely necessary for retesting, so that the point can be marked as closed, if the case may be. Tracking the progress for each of these recommendations, again, evidencing is necessary here. And if necessary, we need to also conduct interviews if we want certain more information before we mark any observation as closed. The validation of the improvements, whether the corrective actions have been taken by the management to effectively address from the root of that particular observation. So prevention is absolutely better than cure. If we work from a more systemic or preventive point of view, there are lower chances of the same observation recurring in the next audit run. Communication of this follow-up is typically communicated to the stakeholders as part of our ATR, which is the action taken report. On a quarterly basis, the ATR can be tabled. This helps us track the closure of all open observations in the past audits that were conducted. Reassessment, if the case may be where the corrective actions that we see need validation, at that point in time, there may be a requirement to reassess the effectiveness of these corrective actions if we are seeing more repeat observations on a period to period basis. There may be a situation where escalation may be required. So if certain corrective actions have not been adequately addressed, or the target dates keep getting pushed, and it has happened that 2-3 times the target dates have been pushed without any credible reasons, there may be a need to escalate the particular matter. This will only help us to curtail the journey and bring the desired results closer to us. So that, again, from a root cause perspective, is important. And lastly, closure. So once the internal audit team is satisfied that the corrective actions have been successfully implemented and these identified issues have been resolved, the follow-up or the ATR process for that particular audit can be closed. This is a recurring activity, so every audit run that ensues will undergo the ATR aspect again. Whenever ATRs are maintained, have to be through and through documented, because work not documented is work not done. And reporting again needs to be ensured. If you've decided a quarterly basis, we need to ensure quarterly the ATR is tabled to the stakeholders. Now that we are done with the setting context part, which is part one, we will move to the core subject for today, which is the outliers, the usage of data analytical tools. So as part of that, first we will look at P2P. So we'll look at the P2P life cycle first. What are the sub processes or the constituents of the life cycle of procure to pay? Then we'll be looking at certain data analytical checkpoints or outliers that can be fed into the data analytical tools to have the desired output, which is going further beyond the traditional approach of internal audit. So first, with regard to what is P2P, starts with the user acquisition planning, which is in this case requirement planning that we mentioned. Moving towards having the request for quotations. So in any case, at least 2 to 3 quotations need to be taken. The third stage is the creation of a purchase order. Post that, the goods receipt note, the GRN has to be prepared. Between the GRN and the payment invoice, there is one stage which is QC. Again, more so from a manufacturing setup point of view, that may be an added stage here. Creation of payment invoice. Typically, the invoice will accompany the delivery as part of the gate inward. So that is something that we can check here. The payment of the vendor invoice, and finally the reporting in the financial statements. So there are these 7 to 8 processes that are critically part of P2P. Now, if we were to look at the data analytical outliers, what can be used or what aspects we can check, I have tried to table, although this is not exhaustive and we can go much beyond this. I've tried to cover these aspects as part of vendor master management, your purchase requisitions, purchase orders, and goods receipt notes. So certain outliers I've tried to mention here. So when we look at vendor masters, one of the outliers, the first one, is having multiple or duplicate vendor codes created for the same company code, same name, same GSTIN, same PAN, same bank account. Next is same bank account number available with more than one vendor. So again, it can issue something or signify something much larger. Vendors having more than one bank account, vendors having the same contact number. So this is 2 vendors having the same contact number. The same PAN or GSTIN, which is mentioned in the vendor master for more than one vendor. Incomplete details of vendors uploaded into the system, basically a blank PAN or a GSTIN for inactive and active vendor codes. So any aspect of the vendor master that is left blank, again, from a null review perspective, is something that definitely can be pointed out by the usage of data analytics. PAN and GST data details are incorrect. The length test can be done easily as part of data analytical tools. Typically, length of PAN is 10, the length of GSTIN is 15, and again, active and inactive vendor codes can be checked. Whether employee versus vendor, so whether an employee has been created as a vendor or not, certain KYC data fields, if they are common when you compare the vendor master along with the employee database, is something that can come out as part of the data analytical involvement. Vendors were selected without appropriate approvals. Again, this points towards the vendor setup access controls, and these again have to undergo. So if we build that as part of data analytics, this can easily be pointed out as well. Recurring one-time vendors for more than 3 months. Again, from a patterns or a trends perspective, if we are seeing certain one-time vendors who are dealing with us consecutively, although being termed as one-time, this again can come out as part of the data analytical run. Moving to purchase requisitions, what can be certain hypotheses or outliers? Mismatch in material code, purchase requisition versus purchase order. So it's a PR versus PO comparison. And the material code is the data field that is being automated here or checked. Mismatch in materials quantity, that is the count. Again, in terms of units, can be kilos, tons. This is a comparison between the PR and the PO. Manual requisitions made, if any. Typically, PRs, POs need to be routed through the ERP. But if there is a sequencing issue, if there is a date issue, if we are seeing that certain requisitions on ground are found to be generated manually, again, this can be churned as part of firstly data analytics. The exception report can signify it as well, and then we can take this into consideration. Instances of time lag of greater than 5 days between PR creation and PR release date. So again, 5 days, there is no threshold as such mentioned in any of the guidelines. Again, this was a case that we had seen in our past experience, which is why I'm giving this as part of the example. Instances of duplicate PR, having the same item, the same vendor, the same quantity, the same period, and there being certain significant delay as part of PR creation versus PO creation. So again, this can easily come out as part of the data analytical run. Moving to the next area, which is the purchase orders, the POs. Splitting of purchase orders, um, basically signifying the authority breach, because as per delegation of authority, or DOA, as we say, uh, the splitting of POs on the same date, same material, same vendor, can be easily found out as part of these CAT tools. So splitting of POs is one very critical area that needs to be there as an outlier. PO price variance for the same material. So POs that are issued for the same material, be it to the same vendor, be it to different vendors in a similar time frame. So again, if there is a significant variance beyond threshold that can be pointed out, again the threshold needs to be input by us. Multiple purchase orders created for the same vendor for the same material but at a different rate. So again, this may, if it's a higher rate, may signify excess cash outflows by way of added expenses. So if we use this outlier as part of analytics, we can signify and identify these cost control measures. Manual PO and authorization, the unauthorized PO creation, modification that results in unauthorized purchase, and again at an excess rate. So again, this point as well becomes an area where cost control measures can be applied. Materials ordered without an approved PR. So without a PR sequence that is linked in the PO register, if it comes as a blank, so that itself signifies. But using data analytical tools, this can be one of the outliers that can easily bring out these aspects. So if materials are being ordered without having a PR, signifies that the material was not required in the first place, but still the order was placed. The reasons may be many, but it has entailed into an excess expenditure than what was envisaged. Goods ordered by the department other than the purchase department, resulting in a possibility of excess cost or unwanted purchases. Again, if the practice in this particular example that we've taken is that all purchases, be it capex or opex, need to be driven through the purchase department, and then we are seeing a vendor, the department code of a different department compared to purchase, it may signify or may imply that it has been an added expenditure which could have been avoided easily. Duplicate POs, again, where we see same plant, same material, same vendor, the month, but a different PO. So is there a need actually for that duplicate PO? Why was the duplicate PO issued? The source will come as part of data analytics, where we can see the exception reporting, which will show us these duplicate POs. And then those exceptions can be taken up as a discussion with the respective process owners as to finding out the root cause as to why it happened. In phase 2, it may also require certain system functionalities to be integrated so that duplicate POs will not be issued in the future. So with the advent of analytics, also what is important to see is the error population that was there before integrating analytics, and post having integrated analytics. Has the error population for same outliers or hypotheses, has it reduced? Because that is a very crucial parameter for how beneficial this integration has been for the organization. Next is duplicate material codes or duplicate rates, again at the same plant, same material, same date. A duplicate rate may also signify in a PO that again we are having more purchases than we should have. So once we take care of the first outlier, most of the outliers again will be taken care of in the future as well. The fourth area was goods receipt. So in goods receipt, what are certain outliers? Purchase order that is made after the GRN. So basically in the cycle that we saw on previous slides, it is PR, quotations, PO, GRN, invoice, payment. So if the purchase order is being made after the GRN itself, shows that there is a backdated aspect that is coming as part of the data entry that has happened. The PO did not exist in the first place. The goods were still ordered, and then it gives us a gateway to see what further went down as part of root cause. List of POs where GRN was not found. So again, these signify that there were POs or purchase orders were issued to vendors, but the final delivery was not done at all. So why was a purchase order issued in the first place? So that comparison, of the PO register and the GRN register as part of analytics can come out. List of invoices where POs were not found. So the GRN has happened, the invoices have come from the vendor, but the purchase order itself was not found. So again, these can signify that orders were placed beyond the ambit of PO issuance. So maybe it's a manual PO, maybe it's a verbal order that is placed of material that may or may not have been required at all. Goods receipt note value is more than the invoice value. Analytically, when the GRN and the invoice register is compared, such aspects will come out. Again, we can set a certain threshold for it as well. The GRN value is more than the PO value. So this signifies that the purchase order, if it is for 100 rupees and the GRN that has come in for 120 rupees, should we be accepting the excess or the differential 20? But the analytics will say whether we should or whether we have already. Because if it's a continuous monitoring, it can give us in real time. If analytics are used as part of quarterly audits that are done, then it will signify that this has happened, why it has happened, the root cause, and how it can be curbed as we go forward. Duplicate GRNs for different purchase orders. So that is the last area there. The next part of outliers was towards the last area of P2P, which is the invoice processing. So while we come to invoice processing, whether there are duplicate invoice bookings and payments that have happened, the duplicate invoice bookings will understate the profit. That's an implication. So it's a financial risk. If a duplicate payment also has happened, so it has beat all the controls that were there, be it with the P2P department or the finance department, and a payment has gone through. So the duplicate payments can be brought out as part of analytical outliers. Mismatch in payment terms in the booking dump as well as the vendor masters. So the payment terms, be it 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, is filled as part of the vendor masters. It will also be mentioned on the PO. Ideally, should flow from the vendor master itself to the PO. Finally, in the invoice booking extraction that is taken from the ERP, what was the payment term that has been caught? Are there early payments that are done? If early payments are done, is there a past trend for certain vendors to whom early payments are being made? It will signify much more. So this aspect being checked as well. As we all know, with MSMEs, the payment terms are typically 45 days, and with certain acts that have come in with Income Tax Act 43BH as well, having made the payments in 45 days has become very crucial. That is the next point, which is delay in payment to MSME vendors. So if there is any delay, to MSME vendors, it will have an interest implication as part of the MSME Act 2006. It will also have a 43BH implication as part of the Income Tax Act. But the source always remains whether this MSME vendor was tagged appropriately as part of the vendor master. The categorization into micro, small, medium, because again, the rules for micro, small, and medium are different when it comes to whether interest needs to be provided and paid, whether they're included in 43BH or not. So this categorization, whether it has been captured, and annually, do we validate this independently? We have a case study on MSME as well. Typically, from experience that we have seen, whenever we take this area in audit, the management or process owners reply to us saying, we have sent emails to all our vendors to confirm whether they are MSME or not. We have also added a line that says, if you do not reply within certain XYZ days, you will be deemed to be a non-MSME. So gone are the days where we need to rely on such emails or certain external confirmations or communications. Today's scenario, APIs are available in the market where we can, in real time, by using vendor pans, validate the MSME registration number, whether it is active, whether it is expired. If it is active, what is the categorization, whether it is micro, small, or medium. It can, at a click of a button, by using the vendor pans, it's there on your screen. So again, this is the benefit or the positive aspect of data analytics for us auditors to make our jobs, your life simpler or easier. And this can give that required value addition to the management, because in the traditional approach of sending emails, in 9 out of 10 cases, many times the replies from the vendors are delayed or they don't come at all. And then the audit has to be closed because we are running deadlines, we are exceeding timelines. These aspects of having used data analytics is an insight that as internal audit team we can give to our client organizations. Moving ahead, the next outlier is invoices that are booked before the purchase order creation date. So that is purchase order that is made post receipt or booking of invoices. So again, this signifies a gap in the P2P cycle. This is a backdated entry of your purchase order that is being passed. So if as part of data cleaning, our date sequencing DD, MM, YYYY is right there, it is properly classified, then this observation will hold much more value. What happens many a times is when we extract data, it can be a MMDDYY or it can be DDMMYY, especially where the dates are before 12, because we have 12 months, and then so that confusion of 04/08 or a 08/04 needs to be taken care of. That consistency needs to be maintained, and this just doesn't apply to this observation or outlier. It will apply across. Data cleaning is an absolute important aspect, without which garbage in, garbage out, you will get outputs which may not hold well in the meeting where you discuss these analytical outputs. Next is invoices paid before the GRN note date. Again, this shows that certain processes were backdated and not followed as intended. Delay in the booking of invoices, example over 5 days. This threshold again, if management has a policy, it will replace 5 days with that particular threshold date. But if there is significant delay, it can signify more issues. And if it is on the account of the company, where the process owners, for example, have kept the invoice in the drawer or not seen the email at all that has come from the vendor, especially in a case where it is a MSME vendor, may prove costly, because then the advent of interest and penal implications will come on. So this is a process improvement that we can try to bring in with having more focus on critical vendors or MSME vendors. Booking of prior period invoices. Again, the invoice date and the posting date can easily be compared as part of analytics. Invoice amount that ends with a 000 or 999 may be looked at with a magnifying glass, so to say. So this as outlier also can be used to fish out certain invoices which are rounded or round-ended. This applies not just to amount, this will apply also to the quantities. So if we are seeing cases where rounded quantities are showing as part of GRN, as part of invoice, especially when it has to do with raw material in a manufacturing company, in my experience, I would suggest that we look at it with a much deeper aspect, because very rarely will you see a rounded kilos or tons featuring on GRN or invoice. It can signify something much larger. Like we saw early payment, there are also late payment and past trends. If we are having late payments despite having agreed terms with certain vendors, it can also have a goodwill or a reputation risk, which is a more qualitative risk. The late payments may again entail interest, which is a financial risk. So this is a point from two aspects that we need to be aware of. Vendor payments made by check. Many companies have a process to basically have the bank details embedded as part of vendor masters itself. The same bank details ideally should feature on the invoices that we receive as well. Despite which, if we are seeing vendor payments which are being made by check, not as a one-off but multiple times, there may be a need to check as to why. Is there a change in the bank account details that was entered into the vendor master? Is the payment actually going to another bank account which we don't have a clue of, which may not belong to either vendor master or invoice? The ideal process would be to automate the same as part of NEFT or RTGS. Many companies have a practice to make payments on a weekly or a fortnightly basis. So at the best extent possible, if you can digitize payments, it will help record keeping as well as having more accuracy and less prone to issues that can arise as part of audit. Invoices booked without PO. Again, this signifies invoicing or ordering that has happened verbally, which does not have a supporting PO. In this case, also, we may try to do a three-way match to see whether there is a corresponding PR in the first place or not. So PR, PO, and invoice, the three-way match can easily be carried out as part of the outliers. Multiple invoices for the same amount on the same date for the same item. Again, if it's for this from the same vendor also, we may want to see. But if we check this from transaction audit perspective without using analytical tools, it may take far more man hours and effort. So for such aspects, using tools will prove beneficial. Missing invoice details. Now, examples on what can be missing, maybe invoice number is blank, the date is blank, zero invoice value is there. Typically, in cases where invoices are generated which are not e-invoices, this particular observation may hold true. These are one-time or local level purchases, that are done, which may not require a PO, or they are, not having the invoice portal that is being used. So certain aspects can easily be pointed out again as part of the analytical outlier run that we do and point out. Then, as auditors, when we see this exception, we can check the invoice to see whether it has been captured properly, or whether it's a data entry issue at the end of it. Next, we'll be seeing the use cases on how we apply data analytics as part of the internal audits. Here, we've taken examples of IDEA, Python, Power BI. This is on the analysis and the dashboarding side. Also, we'll be looking at API verifications. So when I say API verifications, two examples that I have taken today is the PAN-based verifications that can be done at a click of a button, PAN and MSME validations that can happen. Also, an example we've taken today is the vehicle RC verifications. So many a times, let's take an example of logistics audit, where we are checking the gate inwards and the gate outwards of various trucks that the company is deploying. It can be self trucks, it can be trucks that we rent or hire from local vendors. So in this, when we run and when we see the example, what basically happens is the vehicle number is all that we have with us. But within API, it can tell us the make. It can also tell us whether the insurance or the road tax is paid, who owns the car, whether insurance is valid or not valid. So these aspects, again, are crucial, because if critical material is being transported by a truck that is deployed by the client organization, it's imperative for us to know whether all compliances are taken care of, the road taxes are paid or not, insurance is paid or not, any expiries of regulatory aspects is done or not. So all these aspects can easily come as part of the API verification, which I will show you later. Before we begin seeing IDEA, Python, or Power BI, whatever tool or whatever mode we use, data cleaning is absolutely important. So some examples in what entails or what to remember while we undertake this aspect is something I've tried to give on the screen that you're seeing. Before I move ahead, I also like to tell you that, which I mentioned at the start, what happens is many a times as internal auditors, we may or may not have these technical skill sets. So the mode that I have found that works for me as a professional is by using skill sets of persons who work as part of the internal audit team, who are purely technical and understand the usage of data tools, understand the technical aspects of how data cleaning needs to be done. So this cross-functional aspect also works, because what matters in the end is the delivery to the client. We'll continue. So data cleaning, what we need to remember is first to remove the duplicates. So it will eliminate the repeated rows or entries. Handling the missing values, again, fill drop or impute the missing data. Correct the data types, so ensuring number, date, or text are in the proper format. Many a times when we purely just do Control V in an Excel sheet, the dates may not be printed or listed properly. Sometimes you see a 5-digit number starting with a 40 that can come in the date column. Then you have to change the formatting to a DDMMYY. That's when you'll actually see the date. So that again becomes very crucial before we churn any data as part of the data tool. The screening has to happen. Fixing inconsistencies. The example here is having an NY versus a New York. Initially in the presentation, I also mentioned ABC PVT Limited, ABC Private Limited. So whether those aspects are being identified and taken care of. Removing the outliers, so detecting and addressing abnormal values. Trimming the white spaces, that is to clean the excess space in the strings. So next slide is basically on that only, which we will look at. Handling the nulls and the nans, so where we see blank values, replace with defaults or remove them if needed. Then to validate the data accuracy, which is to cross-check against the source or reference data. So the source or reference data typically comes as part of the ERP itself. So validating this again becomes a responsibility of the internal audit team that is running the data tool. and dropping any irrelevant columns. So any columns that are not required, we may want to remove the fields if they are of no use for the data analysis. So it may be a blank column, it may be a date 1, date 2, date 3. So date 3 is blank. Why do we need it? Remove it so that it brings down the load on the exception or the analysis. This is an example of data cleaning where the account numbers and the vendor numbers were as part of the red columns. Now I've tried to hide it for the confidentiality purposes, but the column, the first red column is basically the account number. The L column, which is account number and vendor name, had no segregation. So it was the same vendor name that had uh, come into the L column as well from M. So this would have not helped. So the data team has then, if you see the column O and P, try to segregate them into specific columns. So column O is dedicated to the account number 1. The vendor name is there in column P. So with this data cleaning, this data set will then be used for the data analysis or exception reporting. If we were to upload it with columns K, L, and M, the output may be skewed or flawed. The next example we've taken is of the data cleaning for dates. From this aspect, if you see column E and column F, we are seeing that there were certain aspects of the date, which was DD, MM, YY, that were used. Also, we need to see the column A that is there in this place, which signifies these particular dates. So the data sequencing of how the date wanted or how we wanted the date to look was also segregated by the data analytical team, so that if we see any three-way match issues, for example, with a PR date, PO date, or a GRN date, or an invoice date, we have no issues that relate to formatting. Next, we'll look at the idea caseware example. So how do we basically run data set as part of idea caseware? First is to import the data into idea. Importing an Excel or a CSV file into idea. This is a snapshot from the tool that I've tried to share. Here you select the format. In this particular case, like you see marked in blue is MS Excel, but there are other formats also that can be uploaded or imported into the tool. Next, after choosing the particular format, we choose the file. In this case, the file is called dp list, which is being imported into the tool. Of this file, what is the worksheet that we are wanting to review? Within the worksheet, what is the row number, what is the column number that we need to start churning the data for exception reporting is what we capture in this particular step 3. We then are given a picture of how the segregation is going to be, and this is the last step in the phase 1, which is of importing the data. Post this particular process in phase 2 is when the processing actually happens and the output comes to us. So as part of phase 2, if you see, this is an example we've taken where the vendor with the same address and the PAN, we're inputting or importing the data file. This was a case where the entire vendor master was being uploaded. Again, I have marked certain aspects in blank or a line for confidentiality purposes, but the columns to note are these 2 columns. The entire vendor master, when it was uploaded, the analytical tool ran the outlier for picking out the same address and the same PAN. Now, having run this, the output that we saw was certain PAN numbers which reflected in the GST numbers as well for the same vendor codes that were there. Again, in these vendor codes, there were certain blocked vendors or there were active vendors. If there is one blocked vendor and there is an active vendor, it is still fine because there is an answer that can be given. The first vendor was blocked, which is not being used. The active vendor is the only one. However, if you see 2 line items, both being active vendors, then it signifies to a case of a duplicate vendor having the same address and the same PAN. We may then want to check whether there are transactions with both these active vendors or not. So this becomes a starting point as internal auditors for us to dwell further, to dig deep. But what the tool is basically trying to do here is giving us specific direction to drive in as internal auditors. This was example number 1. The second example we've taken on similar grounds is for POs that were generated on the weekends. So again, the PO register has been uploaded as part of on the tool, that is idea, and the script dates capture the document date here. So on the screen, if you see the equation editor, there is the path that is given, and this is the script that has been written for the particular aspect. Now if we were to see, and the intent here, you may note, is to basically fish out any POs that were on a Saturday or a Sunday. The output that we saw after having uploaded this PO register with this outlier was that we saw certain document dates of these POs in this column having the date 5th October 2024. If you see towards the right bottom, we've also given a snapshot as to 5th October 24 being a Saturday. So the tool was able to identify, and the tool was able to fish out these particular aspects. Now, as auditors, what this gives you is a ready database exception reporting in your hands. You may want to check whether, firstly, there were teams that were working on that weekend. Is there a weekly off, which is a Saturday in this particular case for the organization? Again, whether that person who has generated the PO, because the user name will also be there in the ERP for these cases, whether that person has attended office on that particular day or not. So there are many things that crop out of this exception reporting, which starts with a PO created on a weekend. So the idea, or the picture that I'm trying to project, is basically how data analytics becomes a starting point for us to dwell further, to dig deeper with an accurate analysis that has happened by using a tool, again making our roles easier, and with perceived value which is clear to the other side. From idea, now the second example that we are taking is of Python. In the case of Python, we've taken two examples. One is that of vehicle data, and the second is that of MSME data. With regard to vehicle data, as I mentioned a few minutes back, the example is vehicle details. So all we have is the vehicle number. These vehicle numbers are pan India. If you see row number 2, it is DL, row number 3 is an HR, row number 4 is a DL again, row number 5 is a Maharashtra. So these are various states, and the capability of the API is to capture pan India information, not just specific to a state or a city or a RTO. So having input this as part of Python, then process that is followed is a writing of a script that the data analyst will do. Most critical aspect is the API key. So there are certain API organizations that provide this service. One example to give is Attester. So the API key that is provided once you subscribe to this particular offering of these agencies is to input the API key in the script, run the script, and the output that comes is comprehensive. So with a column that was just with us at the start point, now we have the vehicle status, whether it is active, inactive, when it was registered, who is the owner of the particular vehicle. Again, how this corresponds with internal audit is if you have taken this vehicle on rent or hire, and the person or the entity name on the invoice of such hired trucks is separate or different, it may signify something. So at least it gives you a direction to dwell in. So owner, again, very critical. What is the type of vehicle that we are seeing? Is it a LMV? Is it a truck? Is it a tanker? Is it a three-wheeler? Is it a goods carrier? The categorization is comprehensive as part of the API, and what the tool basically does is corresponds the number of the vehicle and seeks all the information that is available with the government agencies. Also, it speaks of who is the maker, the OEM of the vehicle. Many trucks will be a Tata or a Ashok Leyland or a Mahindra in maximum examples. That's what we are seeing in this example as well. What is the model of the vehicle? Is it a Ball Max? Is it a Rapid? All that with the cylinder capabilities, whether petrol, diesel, is it an EV? So it's comprehensive. I mean, the slide that we are seeing is actually what the output looks like. We are not restricting ourselves to vehicles or a PAN or an MSME. This also extends beyond to bank accounts, email ID verifications, and so on and so forth. The laundry list is huge. So what we can do as part of data analytics is limitless. If I were to summarize this particular point here, It's what you use and what you feel can be of more value addition in the scenario of the particular client organization. So you may want to deploy those specific APIs when you take up certain runs. This can be easily deployed as part of the logistics or the supply chain run as well. The next example we have taken is that of MSME details. So here in this case, we have the PAN number and we have the name. Again, we have encrypted the same for confidentiality purposes. But this is all we need to input as part of the tool. The script is again run. The API key is connected, and the output by just using the PAN number gives us the name of the supplier, whether there is an Udyam number. If there is, the Udyam number will be flashed. What is the categorization of the services? Is it services? Is it manufacturing? Is it trading of that particular vendor? Will be shown. This is column D. What is the categorization of the type of MSME? Is it micro, small, or medium? When was this classified? So this will correspond to the Udyam registration certificate. If you see column E and F, that signifies 23-24 financial year. Column G and H signifies 24-25 financial year. And then the latest one, which is 25-26, is in column I and J, where you see, for example, let us take the example of row number 5. It was active as part of 23-24, 24-25. But when it came to 25-26, there is no corresponding number that flashes. This may signify that the renewal either has not been done, or this particular vendor has moved beyond the category of MSME due to XYZ reasons. So again, this becomes a start point for us to begin our own analysis as internal auditors, but this exception helps us to a great extent. The third example of a data tool that we are going to take today is that of Power BI. Like we did in IDEA, the first stage will be to import the data. In the next 2-3 slides, I've tried to again give snapshots of how this works. Step 1 is for us to basically select the particular file. It can be again an Excel or a CSV file that we import into Power BI. The next step that we take is what worksheets we want to select as part of the Excel file, worksheet 1, worksheet 2. Again, that will be selected by us. So this is again a manual check that we need to do. Third is the data that flashes on the screen, which prior to it being input for process, we are seeing the final step here, which is step number 3. Phase 2 again is that of process. So once we run the formula on the data that is input, which in colloquial terms of data analytics desk is a DAX formula, what we are seeing here is this example is that of ITC in the books, but not in the GSTR 2B. So this example particularly pertains to the GST process audit. So in this as well, if you are seeing on screen, there are certain outliers that are already there, be it with regard to notice status, whether replied late, how many replied on time, what is the notice amount, what is the order notice amount, which states have been impacted, the ITC reversal and reclaim statement, how much ITC in the 2B but not seen in books, vice versa, how much ITC blocked as part of section 17.5. So these are outliers that come as part of the input that we did on the previous slide. It's pertinent to note that this is merely a data visualization tool which will collate the information, categorize it into silos, and make it easier for us to view. This is not per se an analysis point like an IDEA or a Python, but this will help you from plotting the findings or the exceptions in a pictorial or a eye-pleasing format. The next slide is what the DAX formula that is actually used for enabling that information. So these 2 slides are basically what goes into having the process or the scripting for enabling the final output. The final output is as part of the dashboard, or if you want to just call it an output. So in the example that we saw, it is a case of the GST dashboard. Having applied the DAX formula on the file that we had, which was the ITC register, we can see how many filings were done, of which, so out of 924 filings, we see 572 filings were done on time and 352 were late. Of the notices record that we have, we again see how many notices we had uh, which are valid notices, which are 6, of which the refund claimed quantification is there, and the claim rejection percentage is also given to us. If you were to look at it from a ITC accumulation point of view on a monthly manner in terms of lakhs, broken down into IGST, CGST, SGST, uh, the Power BI tool will help you bring this in such format. Again, if you want to incorporate that as part of audit observations in part of the internal audit report, we can just take this as an exhibit and present it in a much more meaningful manner as part of an exhibit there, which is easier to explain as well when we table the internal audit report. The next example is, how much ITC reversal was there and reclaim. ITC in 2B but not seen in the books, vice versa, ITC seen in the books but not in the 2B. Quantification, again, that comes as part of the uploaded sheet, and broken down into months. We can see what compliance issues came in. So what basically this part can help us see in part of a GST process audit is give these particular outliers where we are seeing certain lapses or certain non-compliances which we need to address, or we need to bring to the notice of the management so that they can address before there is any notice or an action taken from the GST department. So in this particular example, these are certain outliers which can help and can be of use to the particular client organizations. Third observation is also similar. This is in terms of what was the turnover, of which how much turnover was domestic, how much was export, what is the output liability GST, what is the RCM liability. So again, there is a possibility in Power BI to also make it more real time. So if the back data is changing or you're making some changes in the imported data, there will be changes that are seen in the dashboard as well, which is the peculiarity of Power BI. So it is more real time. This can help as part of discussing MIS with client organizations on a monthly basis or any other frequency. If we were to incorporate that as part of Power BI, it becomes a simpler way on one dashboard to have all the outliers or the hypotheses that is required by the board or the management to review. Once built, this can also enable the management themselves to keep track of certain outliers themselves rather than have internal audit or consultant or professionals come in and present this as well. So from that angle as well, this shows a lot that data analytics can do, again, of what is used, of much more use to the business side. Since we had taken into consideration P2P in the process-based internal audit outliers, I felt it right to also show a snapshot of the dashboard here. So if you recollect, we had certain outliers that we had there in the listing. In Power BI setup, we have the total POs that are quantified basis what is uploaded, of which this next one is PO compared to the GRN. Are we seeing how many cases there are lags? GRN compared to invoice, how many cases there are lags? Invoice to payment comparison, how many days there are lags? Delay in MSME payments, how many lags are seen? Rejected POs, again, POs approved on holidays or weekly offs, the quantifications, how many on weekly offs, how many on holidays, and how many on regular working days. Vendors having duplicate details, again, the quantification of how many having same PAN, how many having same GST number and name, how many having just the GST number, how many having same address, same name, and such so and so forth combinations that can be built in as part of the outliers. One point which is also very important is, especially in again manufacturing setups, is there a vendor dependency? So if you were to study the material master along with the vendor master, we would also know, basis the codes, do we have single vendors or do we have multiple vendors for A, B category or those various material codes. If it is in a case of single vendor, as internal auditors, we may want to check the criticality of that material, whether it is raw material, whether it is consumable, whether it is packing material. And as an option, is there a just-in-time or a VMI, that's vendor managed inventory, which is in proximity to the plant, which is why there is only a single vendor that has been made part of the vendor masters. So all this will come as part of discussions. But what again is the starting point is what the data speaks, and what data speaks will be the truth and backed by all the numbers and the figures as well. Now, moving towards the certain end of the presentation, I also want to discuss what are the challenges, because so far we have seen the positives of leveraging data analytics as part of internal audit, which looks very good, in theory. But are there any challenges that we need to keep in mind, uh, and accordingly we overcome the tide and ride the wave? First one that comes to my mind is ensuring data quality and sanctity. At this point, if the data flows to us from the auditee, we can conduct our own data cleaning procedures, like I mentioned previously. But before we begin any analysis, it is absolutely important to ensure the source. Have we verified or validated the source of this data? Were we made a party to how this was extracted? Have we seen this as part of walkthrough, or it was directly emailed to us or given on a pen drive? You may want to check the permutations and combinations to be able to lay assurance on how the data has flown to us. Only then will there be use of having the CAT tools deployed. Bridging the skills gap to build a data savvy internal audit team. Um, Many of us will be facing this challenge, and it is a real life challenge when it comes to using data analytics. Identifying the right person on the team who has the skill set, maybe upskilling the same person within the team in house, or whether having external support to be part of the team. The end goal for any internal auditor is to have an all-star team which has process, compliance, as well as data analytical skill sets to be able to give the best output to the client organizations. So the future only speaks of having data engineers, data scientists, data analysts. To what extent it is feasible is a judgmental or a very different question altogether. But that's where the world is moving, and we are as internal auditors in this era already. IA 5.0 is right there. So if not today, there needs to be a credible plan with some timelines in mind as to by when you can bring in the tools, and with the tools bring in the necessary resources with the skill sets. Resistance to change is two-way. One is from the client organizations, unless they see the benefit of what data analytics can do. uh, Whether, uh, just take an example, we bring in data analytics, any person in client organizations, humanly can also feel, will this replace me? Many of us have over a period seen, will AI replace professionals? Will AI replace chartered accountants? The answer is no, because without professionals like us, AI can't work by itself. So it's a symbiosis. So that communication needs to be crystal clear, and in many cases, a POC needs to be done to show that this is a benefit, to make your roles and responsibilities as process owners or management more accurate and clear as well. So data analytics only aids but will not replace. So that resistance to change will be there from a client organization perspective, unless we convince them otherwise. Also from the team perspective, in an audit team, whether using data analytics, can I be replaced as an audit team member or not? So again, that sensitization has to be done within the team, as data analytics being something that is going to aid us in future to make our roles better, and that's where the world is going. So if we do not adopt to these tools, learn these tools, deploy these tools, we will be left behind in the race of internal audit and risk advisory domain, because the world is already moving as we speak. Integrating analytics into the legacy systems or the ERP. So basically, let's take this as an example. It is a square rod that is going in a round hole. It will never fit. Analyticals know, no matter how good they are, if the legacy systems or the ERP cannot take this integration, it will be of no use. So having that dialogue with the IT, having that dialogue with the management and the business teams as to how the analytics can complement in the legacy systems or the ERP is a dialogue that internal audit function can have. The option to this is having the data extracted from the ERP, running it on the analytical tools that are available with you as internal auditors, and then just giving the exception reporting. But if there is a request to integrate per se in a real-time continuous monitoring manner without having those capabilities in the current systems, it may be a challenge. Next is to justify the cost or the ROI on implementing data analytics. Again, data analytics, the tools are not cheap. They have a certain cost to it. So if we communicate the benefits of cost control measures or revenue leakages, or purely just value addition, if that is communicated seamlessly and properly to the other side, to the client organization, the idea of having data analytics running alongside internal audit function will be sold much faster, and it will only go to improve our own outputs. Compromise data privacy, again in this case, is how that data is basically being extracted, whether necessary confidentiality norms, cybersecurity norms, firewall norms have been taken care of, whether the system licenses are indeed valid, or are they crack versions. All of this has to be checked as well, because data, once it's out of the system and on a different third party data analytical tool, it can have certain vulnerabilities. So that fact check as part of the IT team support will be required. So that can be a challenge which we may want to be cautious of. And the last one is the lack of organizational mandate to use analytics. So when I say this basically culminates the whole thing. Unless the organization has a top-down approach to deploy data analytics in its day-to-day aspects or as part of internal audit function, be it for audit or be it for general business analytics, this won't work well, or this won't go long. So that top-down approach, or having the board mandate to use analytics going ahead for all aspects, is very, very critical, and we are seeing many boards and managements making this a must have rather than a good to have from this year on. Before I close, I want to leave you with a thought by Jeffrey Moore. Without big data analytics, companies are blind and deaf, wandering out onto the web like a deer on a freeway. Now, this is the client situation. Us as internal auditors, the positive side is, let's be there on the freeway to guide the deer on the perfect route. So, with that, I'd like to end my presentation today. Thank you for a patient hearing. And if there are any questions, happy to take them.
Sir, very wonderful session, and there are many queries on the board also. We will take it one by one.
Sure.
There is one question from Ravi Shankar Oji. Are there any specific AI tools available for internal auditors?
Okay, so although we will not endorse any tools, the tools that I have come across, one is Idea Caseware, one is MindBridge, which is again a global tool that is being used. There is a tool called Discover, which is an Indian tool. There are AI tools that are available. ACL is one example as well. So it is, everyone has their pros and cons. I would suggest, if you are interested in taking or using data analytics, it would be prudent to take a demo of 2 to 3 of these tools, making the pros and cons mapping, whether which tool fits well with you. Idea sat well with us because that's what we are using currently. So that is something that has worked for us, but it may not work for a separate setup. So there is a bouquet, and like I mentioned, these 3-4 options is something you can consider.
Okay. Second question is from Prashant Virupuram.
Sure.
Are there use cases for specific industries, specifically AIFs or fund managers?
So it's a very niche industry, so to say. Not many professionals would work in it. So just to for the benefit of the audience, AIFs is basically alternate investment funds. They are category 1, 2, 3 AIFs, PE funds, VC funds. So these are funds that invest into listed companies, unlisted companies, and seed investments as well. So peculiarities there are comparisons with the PPM document, that is the source document for any AIF, whether management fees, whether the carry percentage has been taken properly or not. So with my limited knowledge, what I can tell you is the tool itself, the AI tool or data analytics tool is there for us to deploy. The outliers we need to write or we need to input there. The scripts, if possible, we need to write. So IDEA has that capability for us to write more scripts than what the tool gives us. Python has scripts that we can write basis our requirements. So if the industry is AIF, if the industry is retail, if it is e-com reconciliations also, the use cases are immense. It is what we need, is what we need to input in the tool. The tool is just the platform. Rest everything we have to input, but the output then is basis of what we input. So the knowledge of what needs to go into that tool will go sector agnostic.
Okay. Next question is from D. Senthil Kumar.
Okay.
Among IDEA, Power BI, and Python, what is more suited for internal audit?
Okay. So see, IDEA, I think I covered that as part of session also, but I will mention IDEA, ACL, these are tools which are purely audit data analytical tools. Power BI is a data visualization tool which gives you dashboarding. And Python again is used for complex analysis automation. So again, that is specific for us to fish out data. Like the example we saw with the vehicle example or the MSME number example. These are specific API integrations that were possible due to Python. So every audit tool has its use case. We need to use those audit tools only once we understand what the requirement is. But these are broadly the differentiators.
Okay. Nice, sir. Vikash Sultania. Invoice number of current invoice received from a vendor not in line with the pattern of invoice number of earlier invoices received from same vendor. Am I clear properly?
Yeah.
This can also be an issue to identify.
Yes, that is a fact. So this can be added as part of the outliers. So when I've mentioned those outliers there, we have identified 100 plus outliers, but I could not list all of them. So this is a very valid outlier where you can ask for the prefix and the suffix of the vendor invoice to be churned as part of the data analytical tool. Accordingly, the exception testing will or report will come to you. Valid, very valid.
Okay. Question from Mehul Sutar.
Okay.
How do you see the data analytics to incorporate in audit program?
Data analytics as part of audit program, it is as mainly part of the fieldwork. If you remember the four pillars that we discussed, the program is done in the planning stage itself. The program may have 4 to 6 audit areas that we are scheduled to audit during the year. We will do P2P, O2C inventory. Whenever we take up these areas, that is when the data analytics, input or usage will be of much more use. So in pillar number 2 of fieldwork, the analytical tool can be used. In the pillar 3, which is reporting, the dashboard can be used, which is Power BI. So we can use analytics as well as the visualization dashboards. That is when we will use it. Overall, this goes to take care of the audit program, the audit scope, the audit universe.
Okay. Question from Ashwini Nirgude. Is usage of tools like Collab allowed in Indian companies?
So I'm personally not aware of Collab, so I will not be able to comment on it. But I get the trend of the question. So what happens is basically, especially in BFSI scenario, as auditors, many times we cannot take our laptops as well. So we are asked to use the laptops given by the bank or the BFSI constituent entity. So in that case, it may be slightly of a concern unless the data analytics tool is taken or procured directly by the bank or the NBFC in this case. That is when you can run it. So as auditors, we can suggest what tool will work best for them, and the bank can then invest, and then we can help them run this tool. This will apply not just to Collab, this will apply to IDEA, Power BI, Python as well. But the trend remains, our laptops may not serve the purpose when it comes to clients, allowing us to access data on our laptops many a times.
Yes, perfect, sir. This is the very burning issue
It is.
we face not only in internal audits, even during our statutory audits also.
Absolutely. Assurance. Wherever we are
Assurance.
doing this, we may have the best ideas, but if factual practical reality will not change, so we cannot sugarcoat it. That is what the practical reality is.
Yeah. Yes, sir. K. Swaminathan, what is APR? It is into.
You mean API? Because I mentioned API.
No idea, sir.
Okay.
It was
I'll answer
mentioned
it
in
because that was part
API.
of my presentation. So
Yeah.
API, basically stands for Application Programming Interface. So these APIs basically are rules and protocols. The data sharing or the functionalities it pulls from, say, MCA website, it will pull from the MSME Udyam website, from the PAN website, from the GST website. So analytics enables us to procure this information in real time by using certain keywords. Take an example of PAN as a keyword. With PAN, we could find out the MSME number and the whole journey. Was it possible earlier? I don't think so.
No.
Data analytics has made this available to us at a click of a button. Yes, it is at a cost, but at a click of a button, as auditors, we can get that assurance and we can give that assurance. So if our vendor master in the client, we are seeing certain are not marked as MSME, but you have seen it as part of your API check, that value addition comes because out of 10 they saw 2, you saw 8 more. So these 8 have to be embedded. That's the crucial point, and that is where the value addition and the perception plays a huge role. So API is basically this, it's basically pulling the functionality from government portals and other public domain portals.
Yes. And same question from him. Is internal audit leading the team to be equipped with the tool?
Can you please repeat that?
Is internal audit or auditor leading the team to be equipped with the tool?
Understood. So as internal auditors, I would say we need not have all skill sets. If let's take my own example, I may or may not know analytics because I'm not a technical guy, but I know where the world is, I know what the client requires. We as a team need to have the right people on the team to perform that job. If we as professionals want to learn everything, it is humanly not possible, and in today's era where it is specialization not generalization, it is not even feasible for us to have all skill sets. So a
Yes.
working knowledge of data analytical tools is fine, but expert knowledge many times practically is not possible. So to answer that question, if you are leading as a partner on that internal audit assignment, and the expectation is from the client to run the data analytics, we need to vet the output. The input and the process will be taken care by some team member who understands the analytical side. You, as a person leading that the assignment, will verify the output before it goes to client. That makes it a fully functional, integrated team.
Perfect, sir. And last question.
Yeah.
Which API is used for identifying MSME registration?
So the API itself is called MSME verification. So this how this works basically is, like I mentioned, there is an example. A tester is the agency that I've come across. They have a list of over 50 APIs that they offer, and this comes as part. So there are various plans that you can see, and you can take the demos yourself. MSME was one of the APIs. PAN verification is one of the APIs. ROC data is again one of the APIs. Through a SIN check, you can also find whether the company is compliant. With a DIN check, you can find whether a director has done DIR3 KYC. So the list is long. It extends to even bank account, email account, various applications. So MSME is just one of those. And in today's limited time of the 1.5, 2 hours that was given to me, I could give you those two examples. But after the session, do research, go back. There are multiple, API providing agencies which may be, of use in your particular case. In case of any query, you can also get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Happy to answer any queries beyond the session also. My name is Samit Saraf. I'm on LinkedIn, and I will try my best to answer all your queries beyond the session also.
Yes. It's so grateful of you, sir, for handling the queries outside the session also. And taking the cue from this, there was one general query to the technical team also. How do the participants will get the presentation PPT from this? Whether they will get it or what is the solution for this? Hemilji, uh, is it possible to provide to receive PPT presentation for the participants later on? Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Okay.
Okay.
No, sir. No, sir. Wait. Last question from Ivy Chandrasekhar. Can we get the data analytical outliers for other processes like O2C, R2R, etc.?
So it is, time goes into building outliers, to be honest. We've also spent crazy amount of time and effort on this. But to answer your question, whenever you take demos of various audit tools with, for example, idea, there are a set of predefined outliers that may be offered as part of the basic tool itself. So from there, you can then customize further by writing your own scripts. So be it P2P, O2C, HR, finance, there will be a certain set of outliers that may be offered by the tool directly also. So as part of the demo, do keep this as a question when you are evaluating various options for data tools.
Yes. Perfect, sir. I guess all the questions, queries are resolved now.
Yes.
Uh, with this, thank you very much, Samit sir, for guiding the participants very wonderfully. You have presented the session very well and in detailed analysis. Also, you have given the queries resolution of all the queries very properly, and I'm sure all the participants have got very deep insights in the topic. And thank you very much for taking some precious time and guiding our participants.
It's my
With
pleasure.
this,
Thank you.
I thank the board for providing this opportunity for Samit sir and me for handling this session. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for a patient hearing. Thank you, team. Bye.